Welcome back to another episode of the Boss Women Network podcast. We are here to highlight women who are building boldly and changing the narratives in their industries. Today's guest is Miss Bryana Williams, the founder of BMW Financial Consulting and a licensed life insurance professional who works with over 40 carriers. Passionate about helping individuals, especially those in underserved communities secure life insurance solutions that has built protection, financial security, and generational wealth. Her mission was born from a personal story of loss and purpose, and now she is educating others on how to create stability and legacy for their families. Okay, so Bryana, we are honored to have you with us today. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you. I really appreciate the invitation. Thank you so much. I'm
Yes.
excited.
All right. So let's go ahead and dive into it then. Um, you have such a powerful reason behind your work.
Yeah.
Can you share a little bit about the experience that led you into the life insurance field?
Yeah. So I was working on getting my license prior to my mother's passing, but I was working on both my life and health insurance, and I was leaning on the health side. My mother was in hospice last year. Well, it started in November all the way till March when she transitioned. Me and my sister started working on her final affairs, and we got to the point where we reached out to the life insurance carrier, only to find out that her life insurance lapsed because she wasn't even aware of it. So once we found that out, okay, we were like, all right. I mean, we already talked about my mom's services at that point. So we kind of coordinated everything. And my mom, we wanted to honor what she wanted to have still.
Yeah.
So we just pulled our money together and were able to do her final expenses. However, more of the stress came after the fact because my father, he has dementia. They were married for 49 years.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. And, with that, I feel like that triggered his dementia even more. So he wasn't even, my mother, she took care of the finances. Like he made the money, but she took care of the finances. She had her contributions, she was contributing her Social Security, her disability checks, but it was still like an impact with her no longer being here.
Yeah.
And so me and my sister had to basically step up, just ensuring that my father was able to stay afloat. So it was just, stressful. Not only are we grieving, but we're also like stressing about, just making sure that my dad was able to maintain, his life.
Yeah.
So, like I said, it was grief in addition to just stress with finances. So, whereas I know if she was to have had a policy, I really don't even know what her policy was because we didn't have those kind of conversations. We don't know what kind of policy she had, but I will say it did make me and my sister aware. Okay, all right, we knew what we had to do with my mom. My dad, he didn't even get started on like anything, so we thought he had a life insurance policy until we really dived deeper. He just had a retirement fund.
Oh, goodness.
So yeah, I was able to get him a policy though, but at
That's
his
good.
age, yeah,
Right.
at his age though, and his diagnosis, it was way more expensive. So something is better than nothing.
Right.
But my point is, like, I know we're not the only family in our African American community. It's kind of prevalent. 46% of African Americans do not have proper coverage or coverage at all. So I felt like, okay, I know I'm not the only one because, losing a parent, losing my mom, that was definitely transformative for me. And it was a hard blow. But I got fired from my job last year too. So it kind of forced me into this
That was a lot at
entrepreneurial
once.
realm. Yeah, and I broke my ankle. I had ankle surgery that month too.
Oh,
It was a
wow.
lot happening at one time. So I took it as a season for me to really slow down, obviously, because I couldn't even walk. And then also to unplug from work and really figure out what it is that I need to really put my time and my energy into. Because I knew I didn't want to work my job, but I wasn't gonna quit. I know I'm not the only one that kind of finds familiarity in our jobs. So it kind of forced me to like, okay, really lean into this life insurance license that I have, and I have motivation from personal experience.
Right.
So that's what kind of motivated me. Well, not kind of, it did motivate me into
Yeah.
leaning more into the life insurance business. Because again, I know I'm not the only one, and I know we have a lot more opportunities than what we used to be privy to. And I want to just be like that advocate and spokesperson to, okay, all right, yeah, we may have had disadvantages as a culture for hundreds of years, but now we do have opportunities. So what are we going to do about it when we are presented the opportunity? Because sometimes people just don't know what they don't know. But I'm making it my mission to let people know what people can qualify for and how they can avoid situations like I went through, or even position their children into a better position than what they may have had by just paying, maybe a little extra a month, or reallocating their money, what they're already spending a month.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people hear life insurance and immediately think about death, and they get scared just even talking about life insurance. I
Yeah.
know for me, every time my dad tries to have the conversation with me, I get emotional. I'm like, Dad,
Mm-hmm.
I can't talk
Yeah.
about this. He's like, we're gonna have to talk about it. He's like, because I'm leaving you in charge of handling everything. So we gotta have the talk. So he keeps trying to have the talk. I'm gonna have to sit down and have the talk. But every time he tries, I can't even hold it together. So this
Yeah.
definitely,
It's a tough conversation to have. I get it, but it's like, it's gonna happen. You don't know who's
yeah,
gonna go first. You just don't know. And I was
yeah.
just talking to my sister the other day. I'm like, we need to get policies on each other.
Mm,
Like, we don't have kids. Where neither one of us are married, and we are each other's beneficiary right now. So it's like,
um,
if something happens to me and I go first, I want you to have some money, where you gonna be grieving, girl. So, and
yeah,
she has her own business too. And how grief, I don't know if you know, but anybody that grieves, I guess everybody grieves differently. I know I wasn't trying to go back to work. I know I wasn't trying to like get in that hustle mode to make sure that I'm able to sustain myself. So if you
right,
have an option where you can set yourself up where, okay, you don't have to immediately go right back to work, because you're able to, have a little nest egg, or have a substantial, amount of money to maybe pivot, maybe not
right.
go to a job, maybe invest into a business. So why not set yourself up that way if it's possible? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Um, can you break down like how you're reframing life insurance as a tool for wealth building and living benefits? Do you feel
Yeah.
okay?
So we have products called an IUL, Index Universal Life product. So with that product, it's a part of the S&P 500. So it's a part of the stock market. But what's the benefit to this is, it's, although it's part of the stock market, it won't lose any value. So you won't lose any money that you put into it, because it's a life insurance policy. A lot of like the Rothschilds, some of the bigger family names that have trusts over the years, and I guess it was like the early 1900s, that established like this legacy, wealth of legacy. They use their money, they invest their money into life insurance policies, and not wholeheartedly into the stock market.
Mm,
So when the market goes up, so does the value, the cash accumulation goes up and the interest goes up. But if the market goes down, it would either just be the floor would be zero, and that's it. You won't lose any money. So depending on how much you put into it and how you have it set up, because you can set it up for an IRA, like an IRA, something similar to like a retirement account.
mm,
But you can also set it up just as a life insurance policy where it can grow interest as like a savings account. So it just really depends on how you want to pivot it. Just to give you an example, like I had a client, he's 32 years old. He wanted to get $20,000 a year once he hits 59 years old. So he'll be paid out 20,000 a year once he hits 90. So his premium was like 275 or something like that.
mm,
So I mean, $20,000 a month, you might not think that that's a big deal, but it would contribute in addition to however else he sets up his retirement to be.
right.
So that'll be guaranteed.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was hearing something about I don't know if it's called term life or whole life insurance.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now with term is just that. So you can get it for either 20, 30, 20, 25, 30 years. No, I'm sorry, 10, 15, 20, 25-year terms. It really depends on the carrier. So with that though, it's like it's no cash value. I mean, it has its benefits because it's less expensive. But once the term is up, you will have to renew it, and they will renew at that age once your term is up. So you're older.
Mm,
And by that time, a lot of people try to convert at that point. So if you're able to get a whole life, this is my personal opinion. If you're able to get a whole life, Start with the whole life because you're happy your whole life. You don't have to worry about it, the term being up. You don't have to worry about renewing and have to get a new premium, which will be higher by the time you renew it. And with the whole life policy, it accumulates cash value. But, it has its perks too, because some people just want to save money for right now and just, in case something happens, they have something,
Right.
and they
You
may
can get
have
business
more.
loans off of it too, right?
No, with terms, it's no cash value.
It's
So
no
you can't,
cash value. Okay.
no, only with the whole life policy is cash value.
Okay.
So the index universal life it is a whole life policy, which happens to be a part of the S&P 500.
Okay.
Then you have your traditional whole life policy. That's just your traditional whole life policy that does accumulate interest too, based off of how much you're paying in premiums. But it's just not as much growth that would happen because it's not a part of the S&P 500.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So what would you say to want to encourage somebody to understand how important it is to go ahead and invest in it? I don't, because I saw an interview with Candy. I don't know if you saw that, but from,
Yeah, I think I did see that. It was like a few years ago, right?
yeah, she was talking about how that's how she built wealth. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, of course, she
Yeah.
made money with music as well, but she said she built a
Yeah.
lot of wealth with, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if she did term or whole life insurance
Probably it was whole
policy.
life because she borrowed against it. You could borrow against whole life. That's
Mm.
the cash accumulation that you can borrow against. So whatever you put into it, you have to put into it. So you can't just get $100,000 policy and haven't even paid a premium yet.
Oh,
You have to
okay.
pay into the amount that you're trying to get out for your traditional whole life. Now with your index universal life, because it accumulates interest, it's going to be an added to your cash accumulation. So it's going to be the
Mm.
interest that grows, but you'll be able to pull out of that as well.
Is that a situation where you could lose money as well
No,
since it's okay?
nope, because it's a life insurance policy. That's the
Mhm.
that's the benefit. That's the beauty of it. You're not losing anything. You're not going to lose because the stock market tanks. And that's why I am trying to have conversations with people. Consider this as a vehicle for retirement too, because your traditional 401ks and IRAs, I'm not a financial advisor, let me disclose that,
Okay.
but you gotta weigh out your pros and cons. I know with the IULs and even annuities, it doesn't lose any money a part of the S&P 500, but it will grow. So to either be at zero for the year or it will go up to the highest. I think it was like 10% based off the historical data that it can grow interest. So
Hmm.
in my opinion, if you qualify, because it is a little bit more strict with the IUL as far as health questions, um, and any prior convictions. I think they go back to like 5 years, depending on the carrier. If you had any DUIs or anything like that, it can deem you as ineligible because they're a little bit more strict. But if
Mm.
you are eligible for it, apply and see what you can get and see how you can set it up where, if you do want to set yourself up for your retirement, you can utilize that as a vehicle. Maybe even in addition to, not saying one or the other, but in addition to what you might have with your IRA or 401k. Because a lot of people do roll it over though into an annuity. And I know we're
Mm.
talking about life insurance, but annuity
Right.
is for that realm where you're not losing any money because it's not officially like a stock market account.
Hmm. So
Yeah.
how do we explain life insurance to make people like us? Because a lot of us don't
It,
fully understand the process of life insurance. I mean, I know we think of death, but at the same time, when we get those phone calls from all these different companies talking about life insurance, it's like we just look at it as a sales gimmick and be like,
yeah.
I
hmm
don't want to hear about that. But what is it that you can say to encourage people how important it
I
is to
would
have life
say
insurance?
I would say if you don't want those calls, do your own due diligence, do your research, find out referrals are influential. So ask people in your circle who they might have carriers through or have their policies through. Or if some people are more comfortable with their jobs, maybe find out who they
Mm.
have policies through their job. But I would get one outside of your job
Mm.
because if you're no longer working there, more often than not, you can't take your benefit with you. So
Mm.
once you no longer work there or retire, you're going to start from scratch. So I'm just using that as like a point to I guess, your comfort or trust. Like, okay, what companies are reputable? Research. Asking. Social media is like a tool for everything. So I think starting there would be cool, because I understand, yeah, cold calling can be, and I've done cold calling before, but I really prefer referrals,
Mm,
because it's a layer of trust that's there,
right,
because you know you are giving some pertinent information over to a complete stranger, your social security number, so it
right.
is a layer of trust that should be there. So I would just, kind of go off of, talk to people, ask people who they have their policies through. And then do your own research. Maybe Google reputable, insurance carriers.
Mm.
Um, yeah,
So,
and then figuring out what the best rates, are out there for you.
and I see that you mostly, is it that you mainly only are focus on underserved communities?
I don't, I find myself just there, you know.
Mm,
Because a lot of people just don't have it that are in those communities. So it's not like
mhm.
I seek it out. I think I just kind of align there
Oh,
where
okay.
it is like a gap. So it's a gap usually within that community, because
Right,
people have this idea and perception thinking that insurance is so expensive.
right. Well, I
Insurance
do know it's
really is
not
not.
that expensive. Yeah.
It's not, especially the younger you are. And it doesn't have to be a six-figure death benefit all the time.
Hmm.
Maybe you want to get a $10,000 policy, $20,000 policy, for what you can afford, and add on as you go through life.
Hmm.
Maybe in your 20s, maybe you can just afford maybe a $20,000 or $30,000 policy. But when you get in your 30s, you start to grow your family and start to grow assets. You may want to add on to that. You can have multiple policies too.
Hmm. So a person with a family, for instance, me, I have one for myself. I need to get one for my husband. It's been
Mm-hmm.
he doesn't want to go. He's been not really wanting to go through. I think you have to go through like
Health screening.
the health screening and all that.
Depends on the
He felt
carrier.
like doing all that.
Yeah.
If because I didn't have to go through all that. I was
Yeah,
able
you
to
don't
just
have
set
to.
mine up. But
Depends on the product, because I have products that I work with specifically that don't require a medical, screening.
oh, okay. Is it for a
Mhm.
certain age group that can? No.
No,
Okay.
it depends on the product. Like the
Okay.
IUL, they have what you call an IULE, which is the IUL Express. Express meaning you don't have to go through, a fully underwritten process where you have to go to the doctor, get a physical and all that.
Hmm.
And that's if you are eligible though, because they do still do their checks. Like they check the pharmaceutical report as well as your medical reports. But anything comes up from that, they would probably just either just make their decision at that time. They wouldn't even allow opportunity for you to go to the doctor.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't have any health issues. Men just don't like going to the doctor. You
But
know.
but you know what? That's why they premiums are higher.
Oh, it is.
Seriously, it is. Men premiums are higher than women because of that reason.
Right there. So are you advising people to get insurance for their young kids too, even though they're.
Yes, because that could be a vehicle for you too. For like I said, the younger you get a policy, the better. So if you have a child, you can, of course, if you want to use the money for your child, you can, it can help out with expenses. So if you get an IUL for a baby, and actually I did set one up for a 6-month old, and her premium, I don't want to just quote like this is going to be for everybody. Of course, there's so many different factors that
Right.
you have to consider. So her baby was 6 months old, and she wanted to pay a premium of $30 a month. Mind you, you can go higher than that. So the higher you go, the more you'll see the growth happen. So when our baby hits 15 years old, she'll have like, I think it was like $10,000 there that accumulated in cash accumulation. That's just paying the minimum.
Right.
So imagine if you pay, maybe a couple $100 a month from a baby. You know what I mean? That accumulation and that interest will grow even more. And you would be the owner of the policy. The parent would be the owner of the
And the
policy.
parent and those type of you say IUL, parents are able to use that money as well. I know parents
Yeah.
are paying for college for their kids with this money sometimes too.
Yes. Yep.
Mm.
Yep. That would be the ideal, that they would use the money for the kids, Because I would, I mean, it happens. People do utilize their kids' money,
Yeah.
for whatever reason. But, that would be ideal that they would use it for their child's, whatever expenses they have.
Mm.
Things always come up with kids, you just never
True.
know. And even if you want your kid to focus on school and not so much maybe necessarily going to work, maybe set it up where they can pull out whatever, like a lump sum at a certain point in time, you know what I mean,
Mm. Mm.
of their life, maybe at that college years, like 20 years old, 22 years old, things like the college age. So
How does that work? Does it take away from the death benefit? Like, so,
it depends on how much interest has grown.
okay.
So if it's grown where if it's over the death benefit that you got, it's a possibility that could happen. But it does take away, like if your death benefit accumulated to $200,000, but your death benefit that you set your policy up for was $100,000, you still would be at you know,
Right.
on the upswing.
Right. I get it.
Yeah.
Okay. So for life insurance for entire family, that can be pretty expensive. It's going to be like 200 per person, isn't it?
What do you mean? Like if you got a policy on
Like if you got
everybody?
a family of five or a family of four.
So with the life insurance, at least for me, it's an individual policy.
Oh,
Like
so they're individual, each person.
yeah,
You don't have like it's not a family policy. Okay.
no, no. Now with accidental death, you can get like a family policy, meaning like if anything happens where you die from an accident,
Right.
you can get a policy like that as like a group, like a parent or, one and two additional people. You can set up that way.
Hmm.
But with the carriers I work with, it's no like group, you
Okay.
know.
So it's individual.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good
Yeah.
to know. For the people that's thinking
Mm-hmm.
about getting life insurance, they would have to everybody would have their own individual policies.
Exactly. Yep. Yep. And everybody's premium would be different, because if you have a kid that's 5 years old, of course, hers would be less expensive than the parents who might be in their 30s or 40s. But they do have like a carrier that I work with has children whole life policies where it's like they have to be between the ages 0 and 18, and it's between 5,000 and it goes up to 20. I'm sorry, it goes up to $50,000 of death
Hmm.
benefit. But then you have the IUL income advantage where you could be any age, and then you could
Hmm.
set it up, like I said, for disbursements to come out at a certain age, or if you just want it to be accumulating for the rest of their life, and they could just do what they want with the money and interest that it grows.
Hmm. I'm gonna have to talk to you about that for my kids. And my mom was just talking to me about she needs to get life insurance, and she's already in her 70s though.
That's
Um, but she's still able to get some. She said, even if I just get burial, because she said I don't even have that. So,
mm-hmm. That's what happened with my dad. He's 77, so I just got him a policy last year. So,
hmm.
and he has a diagnosis, so
Hmm.
it's more.
Yeah.
But he didn't have anything, so we got able to get him something to cover his final expenses for
Oh,
burial.
is it expensive for just burial, even at that age? I mean, she doesn't have any. She did have cancer, but they was able to remove it, so
Okay,
she doesn't have anything. Is that still counted against her because she did have it?
she would be able to get it because you can get like my dad. He didn't have to go through any underwriting. Like they have called what you call guarantee issue.
Mm,
Guarantee issue means they're guaranteed they're going to have it, but
mm,
it's going to be more expensive,
mm,
just
mm.
being transparent. So, like, for example, his premium was 174 and he got a $10,000 policy.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But with him having that guarantee issue, he has to survive within 2 years. So he can't pass away in 2 years. I mean, he can't, obviously he can, but
Right.
if he passed away within 2 years, we will only get 10%, the premiums that we pay plus 10%,
Oh, okay. Mm,
back. We won't get the full death benefit if he passed within the 2 year time frame.
mm.
And that's kind of like the caveat to the guarantee issue. But
Right.
so again, something's better than nothing. So
Okay. So what kind of challenges have you faced starting your business from the ground up? Was this the first business that you started? Or
Well, this is my first business where I've been 100% just my business.
okay.
I've had a photography business since 2014, but I've always had a job.
Okay.
But being full-time entrepreneur right now, I say my challenges can be sometimes, and I've gotten better with this, like the rejection.
Oh God, yeah, I know what you mean.
Like the rejection piece. And I'm learning, like, okay, it doesn't mean anything. Keep moving. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm,
I believe in the value of what I'm providing, and someone's no is not going to deduct from the value that I know that I have to offer.
right, right.
So I think it's more the mindset that's been a challenge. I'm not
Mm,
even gonna say challenge. I say it's been effort, to recondition my mindset, especially if I feel like God has called me to be in this space at this season right now, where I learned to not take it personally because it's not about me.
right.
Like if I'm positioned in a way where I'm feeling like I'm being of service to people, which is God's people. I know that God is going to align me with the appropriate people that see the value in what I feel like I have to offer. So,
Mm,
yeah.
understood. Okay. You say that you are like rebuilding your foundation this season. What does that look like for you?
So it looks like just organizing my life because I still have my photography business, and I also have a studio that operates as like a short-term rental too. So it's like I
Oh,
have my hands in a few different things. So this season is really just locking in to make sure that my mind is clear where I can organize and manage so I don't feel overwhelmed.
mm,
you know I'm not afraid of stress, but I don't want to feel that constant feeling of like overwhelmed and like where I feel like it just becomes too much. So I'm in a space where I'm just trusting the flow of things, um and responding to things as it comes versus being too far in the future,
mm,
thinking of the what ifs and trying to prepare for that. Like I'm
right.
preparing for something that is not even here versus responding to things as it comes. It's completely totally different energy. So that's the space I'm in right now.
I guess that's how you handle stress.
Right, right. Yes, yes.
That
Because
is the way.
you're not going to avoid it. You're not going to avoid stress. It's just how you respond to it.
So do you have any like self-care routines?
Yes, prayer and meditation first thing in the morning. Like seriously talking to God. Like I didn't realize how much of an absent I felt like God. Like I felt like I prayed. I believe in God. But like really cultivating a relationship is completely different than just believing and praying here and there. So now like I understand the importance of really cultivating that relationship with God where I'm praying and meditating, starting my day with affirmations. Like starting your day intentionally has been like a game changer for me where I'm not just I don't know reacting to the day. Like I'm like intentional of the space and the energy that I'm holding and the energy I'm putting out. So meditating and prayer I've been able to kind of like recalibrate and make sure that I'm like aware of how I'm responding,
Mm,
and making sure that I'm in a space that I want to be in, and trusting God more. Um, I feel like entrepreneurship has really made me aware of where I was in relationship to God and trusting. And I feel
mm,
like I control everything, because when my mom passed, I really feel like that was my sign because I was working two jobs, I was running my businesses, I was just doing too much. My blood pressure was high.
oh, I could imagine. I don't even know how you was able to start a business in that same year with your mom passing.
I,
You're
I,
strong.
I, I was doing too much. I was doing too much. And like I was like, okay, you ain't go sit down, I'm gonna sit you down, break this thing. And I had to go through surgery and everything. So during that time, it's like, okay, like what's really important right now? Like I knew being with my mom was super important. Like
Yeah.
I was at the house, I stayed there because she did hospice at home. So I made myself available to her as much as I could with the broken ankle. And then with my dad too, like those family is just so important to me, even though we're down to what my dad and my sisters now. So it's like just us now. So, but learning to just value the moment and not put so much value in the
Everything.
obtaining,
Yeah.
and getting things, and then thinking that that's how you identify. And I think we do it on a subconscious level. Like, I don't feel like people are consciously saying, like, these are the things I worship or these are the things I value. I think it happens on a subconscious level. So being aware of that, like, and it's no slight to people that do value those things, but I just know for me, when I was operating from more of a worldly space, and I don't want to
Mm.
sound religious, but just as from a space of like just needing to get things done and needing to control, it was just super stressful. I still have a tendency, but it's something that I'm aware of, and I'm putting practices in place where I can release more and allow
Mm.
God to move, because I don't know how, my life will turn out. And I have an idea, and I think we all have like these ideas, but I'm just
Right.
learning to surrender more.
That's hard. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's hard because I'm guilty of those same things that you're saying because I definitely
I think we're conditioned to be like that.
yeah, trying to do so many things and want to accomplish so many different things.
Mm-hmm.
And at
Yeah.
the end of the day, what is that gonna do when you leave this place? But
Exactly. Nothing. Nothing. You know,
yeah,
I do think, we come to this world. We're here for a reason. I think we should enjoy it,
yeah,
spending time with our families and going out to eat, like just doing things. I understand that, but I also feel like, you just gotta watch yourself, how much you're giving to it, and how much power you're giving away to it. Um, but I don't want to get super deep, but I do think like us as Black women specifically, and just the Black culture, I think this is how we've come to survive so long. We always
yeah,
operating in that survival mindset and survival mode. And I think we are, as a collective, are learning to understand we don't have to always, operate from that space or be the savior, for the family,
right. Gosh, yeah, I get that.
Yeah,
That is definitely. I guess that is our culture because
it is.
gosh,
You know, if you think about like what 400 years of slavery, we were
Mhm.
in, and in bondage, like, and I think, people talk about it, we're not so far removed from it.
No, we're
Like,
not.
no, and those behaviors and that mindset has been passed down, and it served its purpose in that time,
Mhm.
but now it's like, okay, all right, we don't have to be so, anxious,
Right.
so we don't have to as much as maybe our ancestors may have had to.
Yeah. But I think also we work so hard because we want to, before our parents leave this place, we wanted to be able to do something for them because they went through so much back then.
Mm-hmm.
Even though they probably weren't in the slavery days, they still experienced a lot
Mm-hmm.
more than what we did.
Segregation. Yeah,
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 segregation and all that. So, excuse me, we want to be able to do something for them and help them see some things before they leave this place,
yeah,
so it
yeah.
causes us to feel like
Mhm.
we're in a rush to hurry up and make
Yes,
things happen,
yes.
you know.
But that come from the oppressor. I don't
Yeah,
want to,
yeah, yeah,
that feeling like we have to hurry up before, so we won't miss out, has been designed, and it's been set up that way. Like, that's the
right,
reality. It has
right,
been set up that way. But kind of going back to just even life insurance being an opportunity for us to really build wealth. Like, now we don't have to operate from that space if we make certain choices, different
right,
choices.
right,
We may not have to struggle so hard. If one of us, in this generation, for our generations to come, they may not have to struggle as much. If we put the proper principles and tools into our kids and our children so they can make better choices than us.
right, right,
That's how you break the generational curses. It's about choices ethics, principles, and beliefs at the end of the day.
Yeah, I do believe that life insurance area is a really good wealth builder for families. It's just the process of really being able to explain it and break it down in some type of,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what kind of format we need, story format, some examples. I don't know what we need because
Right.
it's got to
Right.
be some way to break it down to the families for them to fully, completely understand
Yes.
how important it
Mm-hmm.
is. Because
And it might
maybe,
take time. It might take another generation, maybe, where we could catch on, because our counterparts been doing this for
forever,
centuries. Like,
yeah.
they come out the womb with policies.
Hmm. And I ain't gonna lie, I used to wonder why, when you see funerals of their families, they don't usually be crying too much at the funerals. And I'm like, dang, we be over here breaking down about to
Right.
pass out when somebody pass away, and they just be like,
Like, right.
it's probably because they getting millions of dollars. Even I know for me,
Exactly.
if I was still getting millions of dollars, I'm still gonna be breaking down. So I'm happy.
Right. But
But at
no,
the
that,
same time,
it's
though,
something to that. I'm
yeah,
sure. They probably got to deal with all that trauma. You
yeah,
know, they got to hurry up and go back to work.
right. That's so
Try about
true.
get back to
That
work.
is
Who's gonna take care of the kids? Who's gonna.
that is so true. Cause man, that had to be hard. Your mom passed away. You gotta still work. You can't even take a break and just
Exactly.
really think about what just happened. You know what I
Don't
mean?
want to lose the house, like all
Yeah,
that.
that's
Got to
life
consider it.
changing.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah, we do go through a lot. That's a lot to
Yeah.
deal with. So that's so true. That's why they're not as stressed and crying. And
Right.
they don't have as much to think about once this person is buried. Like we got to come home and still figure it out.
Right.
So yeah, so that's why life insurance is very important. So for the people that's paying attention, y'all may want to
It
contact
is.
her
Yeah.
so you can
It
get your life insurance set up. I see that you say you are building. Um, you say that you are inspired by your future self.
Yeah.
What do you
Yeah.
mean by that?
So I have um I have an idea of who I am in the future, and I feel like who she is not as fearful as I may be today. I feel like she truly believes in all her abilities and what God has called her to do. She's more evolved, more confident, more sure. Because it's levels to it.
That's true.
I think that she's just at a higher level of consciousness, and that's who I aspire to be. You know, and I know people are familiar with like it's me versus me basically, like
Most
in that
definitely.
same essence. Like I really think about who I am, my ideal self,
Right.
and that's the person who I work towards. Like what are her habits? What does she do? You know, I know I want to get better with working out more. Like how often does she work out a week? How does
Okay.
she eat? How does she talk? How are her friends? What are her conversations like? You
Mm-hmm.
know, so that's who I think about.
That's something to think about. I think about that too.
Mm-hmm.
That is something to inspire the next person with, because I'm sure a lot of us don't even think about that. What does your future self look like, and how is
Mm-hmm.
that inspiring you? That's some motivation to focus towards, like, because you want to
Yeah.
become that person. I think I
Yes.
see something about in order to become that person, you got to start walking in those shoes today.
Yes. Yes. Yep. And
Sometimes,
when I catch myself kind of like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
no, go ahead. I say that's the hard part today is go
Yeah.
ahead and start walking in those shoes. I know I want to get to the gym. I want to
Yeah,
do the same
right?
things you said. I want to work out.
Seriously.
I want to do
Like I
all
gotta
those things.
make you aware, like self-check. Like even in certain conversations, if I see certain conversations going down or affirming an energy that I know I don't want, like, Kiki is cool sometimes.
Yeah, yeah.
But you also kind of got to just be aware how much are you kikiing and how much are you giving energy to a belief that you don't want to have in your life anymore.
Right, right.
You know,
Most
I'm
definitely.
single. So I know I want to get married. I still want to get married one day. I have my, you know, type of marriage I want to have, and I see what type of man I want to have. So I can't keep on having these conversations that men ain't this and men
Oh
ain't
yeah.
that. Talking about these podcasts and this generation of men, this and just that's
Yeah.
feeding and affirming an energy
Yeah.
that I know I don't want. So why am I, you know? So
Mm-hmm.
and this is something I'm recently like being mindful of and pulling back from because I don't want that in my life. So I'm not about to affirm with you because we're two or more gathered. It
Yeah,
don't
that's
matter if
true.
we pray or like communing, like we still touch and agreeing. Like, no, I don't want to agree with that.
That's true.
You
That's
know? So just something as simple as that. Like I'm just learning, okay, would she be talking about this right now? No. So let me shut
no.
it down. You know, like
Yeah.
you know, she got her man. My future self got her husband.
Yeah, y'all
You know,
traveling, they're traveling and
you know what
everything.
I mean? Like, no, I'm not about to fraternize.
I love it. So, do you do like collaborations, like do like events to where you're speaking and to people about life insurance and things like that?
It's funny you mentioned that. Yeah, I have an event coming up with my friend. She does. She's a loan officer.
Okay.
So we're doing a coffee talk May 28th, in Dearborn, Michigan, and we're just going to talk about what she's going to talk about funding for like investment properties and funding for just first time home buyers, and I'm going to be talking about IULs and annuities and just how you can move in this uncertain time in the space that
Mm.
we're in.
Is this via Zoom or in person?
It'll be in person. We
Okay.
were thinking about doing maybe a live while we're there. That might be an idea, but it's in person.
Yeah, even if you didn't go live, but you did a Zoom session
So,
and had people on another day, just in
yeah,
case
that's a good
you're too
idea.
busy to go live at the
Yeah,
at the spot.
that's a
Maybe,
good idea.
yeah, Zoom it. Matter of fact, maybe I could collaborate with you because I'm into real estate too.
Oh,
I'm a real
okay.
estate broker, but
Nice.
so yeah, definitely would like to collaborate and maybe possibly have a mortgage lender and somebody like
Yeah.
talk. We can just talk about that and invite people to get on the Zoom to learn more about it.
Yep, that'll
So
be awesome. I'm
yeah,
down. Let's do
okay, let's do it.
it.
So I know you gave some advice about looking forward to the future self, and that was great. What one more piece of advice would you give to women right now who knows she needs life insurance but keeps putting it off?
Just do it. I would again do some research. Don't just get a policy with anywhere because there are some carriers out here that just sell dreams. Like they say, like $1. I don't know how. I don't even know their slogans, but like $1 a day will get you $30,000. Do your research. And especially if you have a child or even if you don't have a child, think outside of yourself. Because I will admit, I didn't have a policy until last year. And
Hmm.
I didn't realize, again, me going through the death of my mom and then also learn what I'm learning when I'm studying to pass my exam, just all the benefits that you can have by having it. Consider just your loved ones. Who will be responsible for your passing? Do you want to just leave that on to somebody? I really feel like it's a selfless act. So if you know that you're a selfless person, because we do have our selfish people out here,
Right. Mm-hmm.
and I'm not talking to you guys. I'm talking to the selfless
Selfless
people
people.
that don't want to wait last minute and make sure that you setting yourself up where your family does not have to be burdened with any financial responsibility that you have or consider them having to go back to work. Like that's another thing. Like just really consider the state of mind that they'll be in when you're no longer here.
Yeah.
How you can alleviate that by making a choice to invest in a money that you already spend, reallocating those funds to something that would be for your family. That's what I would say.
I love it. Well, before we go, how would people get in contact with you in case they want to sign up or learn more about life insurance policies?
Yeah, so you can call me directly. My number is 248-238-4332. Or you can reach out to me on social media. My page is Bryana M. Williams. That's Bryana, M as in Michelle, Williams, Williams. And a lot of all my contact information is on my social media handle. So those two, if you want to call, text, or DM, you know.
Whatever.
Yeah.
That's how you find her, y'all.
Yes.
All right. Well, we're going to get out of here. Thank you for joining me today on the Boss Women Network
Thank
podcast.
you.
It was really great speaking with you and great meeting you as well.
No,
Um,
it was good meeting you too.
yeah. So thank you guys for joining us here on the Boss Women Network podcast. Don't forget to go to the Boss Women Network website, bosswomennetwork.com. You want to check out any of the interviews or just learn more about the Boss Women Network and what we offer, bosswomennetwork.com. All right. Till next
Yes.
time. Bye.
Bye.
Enjoy your day.
You too.
Okay, bye.